Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to my channel. In this video, I want to talk about the Brexit deception. Why? Because when I look at this thing, this Brexit phenomenon, it doesn't add up at all. I'm not going into the history of the EU and the UK in the EU. You can look at that up for yourself. You can go to the library or you can go to Wikipedia and do your own research. In my videos, I often tell my subscribers to look at the bigger picture. That means look at things from a spiritual point of view. And that is what most people don't do. Most people have their expectations and they want to solidify their will by securing the outcomes they're holding on to. And they don't look beyond to evaluate where those expectations are even worth it. Now, what do I mean with that in relationship to this Brexit thing? When you look at how the politicians of the UK behaved since the Brexit vote came out in June 2016, it's quite horrible. I mean, okay, let me give an illustration. Let's say that you have a guy who's married, he has kids, and one day he has enough of his responsibilities as a father and a husband, and he goes off with a prostitute, some young chick he met at a bar. But he does expect his children to give him honor and dignity and treat him in a dignified manner. He does expect his children to give him a privileged position in their life. He expects his children to treat him as if nothing ever happened, despite he threw them out, neglected them, and disrespected them. And he also expects his ex-wife to police him sexually from time to time. If you would have a guy like that, who won't have his cake and eat it too, people would tell him, dude, you want to throw your family away, right? So you need to accept the consequences. But here's the thing. When you look at not only the British politicians, we look at the sentiment among the British people. I'm not talking about mainstream media. You can also look at amateur videos of random people out there who post about how they feel, how their relatives think. When you look at all of those things together, you get the view, or I'm saying you get the picture that most of those people that are fighting against the EU, they don't know what they're talking about. It's pure based on emotion, often. When you question them about their arguments, they have no arguments. And they'll even turn on you when they realize they don't really have any solid arguments. They just have a will, something they want, and well, they just will it, and people just have to find a way to deal with what they will. Isn't that a form of narcissism? Now, by the way, I'm not promoting Britain remaining in the EU, neither am I promoting Brexit, okay? This is not a political debate. Just look at the bigger picture of this thing, folks. The more you look into this thing, the more you will see it's a deception. And look at this. All that division that this vote has brought upon Britain, and also in the EU 27. That means the rest of the countries that want to remain, at least who haven't opted out of the EU. Who benefits from it? Who benefits of this social contention, this national division in the UK? Demons do, because they feed off that negative energy. They feed off of those arguments. They feed off of all that fear that comes from the uncertainty of what's going to happen to their country. And remember, many of those politicians, they are devil worshippers. And as devil worshippers, they ought to keep the demons happy. And what better way is there to keep the demons happy by trapping the population into a conflict that they can't solve? Just think about it. If people would have looked at the bigger picture, they would have seen that, hold on a minute, Britain is not in the colonial era anymore. The UK doesn't have that big empire anymore today. The former colonies are now independent. All over the world you have regions being formed. The EU is the biggest economic bloc in the world today, but you also have Mercosur, that's in South America. You have the African Union. You have ASEAN in Southeast Asia. So everywhere you have those regional blocks being formed. And each country is related to at least one block for their economy. If people would have pointed this out, or if the British people would have just looked into it, they would have realized, hold on a minute, we belong to the biggest economic bloc there is in the world. We are one of the main decision-making countries in it. So if we are dissatisfied about the direction of this EU, we are one of the top countries in decision-making. We ought to use our influence to steer it in the direction we want. That's what they ought to have done. Now they want to leave that big economic bloc. They'll lose out on trade, on political relations. Their citizens probably will have to ask for visas if they want to come to the EU. They'll have to hand in a lot of benefits. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs because businesses are leaving the UK. And hold up, it gets worse. A lot of those so-called Brexiteers want to do this, and they demand that their life remain at ease. They just want a divorce, but they don't want any cost or consequence of that divorce. What is that? I mean, when you look at this carefully, folks, and by the way, I'm not judging people that voted out, because it's not about a political debate, okay? What I'm telling you is that this Brexit was a trap, to trap the British people in the negative, to keep them in a haze of fear. That is where demons want people to be. So eventually, it's all about keeping the British people in the negative. Remember, Britain already had a lot of negativity here and there. You look at the stabbings that happened past decades. Look at the amount of homicides that take place. So, and there's also more troubles that Britain is facing. For example, they lack around 3.5 million houses. So, look at this way. If people would have been enlightened by the true facts, they may have been provoked to look for long-term solutions. But now, you had the media blaming it all on Brussels, and you had those terror attacks, so people were emotionally provoked to think that the EU was the enemy, they need to take their country back. And you had propaganda giving false promises to people that if you leave out, this is going to happen. We're going to be better. But now people voted out. Not everyone, but now that a small majority voted out, now people realize, hold on a minute, we are going to face a lot of trouble. But now people made their choice. They had their will, and their will is validated. So for them to acknowledge they've been misled means they need to be humble. They need to admit they've been wrong. They need to admit that they were ill-informed, and they need to admit that they were easy to blame Brussels. They need to take responsibility. But that means they have to go against their own will, go against their own self-validation, and that is what proud people don't want. And look at this. Demons already knew that many people in Britain were proud. And demons used this pride to build people up in that same pride, to now give them a chance to validate that pride, because demons knew once they validate that pride, most likely they will never look back and seek deliverance. That is how demons trapped a lot of people. And that's how demons hindered a lot of people of finding deliverance. When you are looking at political events, look at it from the spiritual point of view. Yes, you have the material outworking, you have the social consequence, you have the economics, all those things are involved. And I'm saying those things are not relevant. But look at things from the spiritual point of view. I'm telling you, if you live in Britain, don't let this whole Brexit hysteria get to you. This whole Brexit thing is a paranormal operation, like many political events are. But most of the time we don't see that. You know why? Because we were never told in school, and often not by our parents, and often not even by church, that political events are often spiritually, energized. Most people don't even know the difference between the supernatural and the paranormal. Most people don't even know how the world really operates. This is why they fall for these things. Well, I'm not going to make this video too long. I made this video spontaneously. Again, I'm not going into the history of the EU and the UK and all of that. You can do that for yourself. But just let me tell you, this whole Brexit thing, it's a deception. Those people that rule this world, including Britain, they are sun worshippers. They worship Apollo. They worship the beast. So everything they do is to support the beast system. And for the beast system to survive and to operate, people ought to be kept in the negative. So what keeps them from manipulating the people into a controversy like this to keep people negative-minded? They will do it. For you, agree with Christ and be at peace.